Hello, everybody. Welcome back to STVCastle Chess. This is episode number 15. This is titled A Bird Told Me. And in a minute, I'm going to explain why I titled it that. This is Stephen Vitt coming back to you with chess content again. I've been meaning to make more of this. This is the kind of content that I like to make. So if you enjoy this as well, please give this video a like and just make sure to share this content with others that are enthusiastic about the game of chess. And let's just get started here. Now, my opponent, username spritechess, played an interesting game here in response to what I initially opened with, and that is the bird opening, f4. That is named after Henry Bird, f4. Now, obviously, you can fall into a lot of traps with this opening as white if you're not careful. Like, for example, if you were to play f4, then your second move as white would be like g4, then you run the risk of just losing the game right then and there because of fool's mate. Because black can easily move his or her queen over to h4 and you're done. So be careful about that. Anyway, f4 in this game, my first move is that, and excuse me, f4, e5, f takes e5, knight c6. So this is in particular titled the Schletzer Gambit. This is what you're seeing right here. So with this response, black is basically allowing white to claim the center for now. And as white, you do have to be careful because if you let your guard down with this opening defense move, knight c6, if you place something like another pawn move, then you might be losing tempo. So in response, I played g3. By the way, this game took place on chesstempo.com, hence the different look of the board. g3, d6, e takes d6, queen takes pawn d6, bishop g2, wanted to fianchetto that bishop, get it out of the way. So Sprite Chess gets ambitious with a move, knight to d4, e3, immediately drive the knight back, knight f5, knight f3, trying to develop my pieces now, h5. He's starting to develop some sort of wing attack. That's an indicator right there with h5. I go ahead and castle anyway. Got to protect your king. Knight f6, c4, knight g4. Now you can see what Sprite Chess was trying to do here, trying to load up on one side. In theory, that's not a bad thing, but it's how you move your pieces around. That's how you can tell whether or not you have a good attack going. Rook to e1, h4. He's trying to provide more pressure here. I mean, you can see this where it's like the knight wants to get that pawn, the queen's covering that pawn too. You just brought the pawn over here to h4, so I get it. e4. Knight takes pawn, g3. Now I could easily take back, but there's no point in that because that would free up the rook over here on the h file, and I don't want to do that. So I go ahead and keep developing. d4, knight h5, e5. You notice how these three pawns are very well positioned. Going after the queen, queen g6. Now I go ahead and take the pawn, knight takes pawn h4, while also attacking the queen. Queen has to move again. Queen goes all the way to b6, lateral move there. Knight c3. I keep developing my pieces. I also noticed that during this game is that Sprite Chess continued to just move around the same pieces, the knights and the queen, aside of course from that one pawn. But I mean, the bishops were not active, the rooks were not really active on Sprite Chess's part. So I really had no idea what Sprite Chess was kind of doing there as far as that goes. So c5, Sprite Chess's response to that. I go ahead and start charging knight d5. My knight is well positioned. It's protected by the bishop here. Queen has to move again. Queen to d8. h3, trying to drive back another knight. But, of course, that was a little oversight on my part because the queen took that knight on h4. However, even though Sprite Chess captured a knight, which is worth 3 points, he forgot to cover the rook on the a file because I go ahead and do this. Knight to c7 check. That's a fork. The king has to move. King e7. I go ahead, capture the rook. Knight takes rook a8. Knight g3. He's trying to get this. Sprite Chess is trying so hard to get this this attack going, loaded on one side here, but there's just nothing there. D takes c pawn on c5. Knight h6. By the time I think that Sprite Chess realized that his king was in trouble, it was already over because queen to d6 check forces the king to move again. King goes back to e8. And then what's the finishing move here? Knight goes back to c7. Knight c7 checkmate. So in summary here, I will provide like a couple tips here before we wrap this up. Um, let me go back a few moves here. Let's go back a few moves here because I want to highlight to you guys what I think went wrong with Sprite Chess's attack. Bear with me for 1 minute. Yeah, I think it was around here, starting in move 9. I just played c4. Then he went ahead and moved that knight g4. He was trying to load up on a side here. Here's a tip I'm going to provide for you guys right now. There's nothing wrong with loading up on one side for an attack. But if your opponent is so well defended that you can't break through, then you have to pull back. There's no point in making multiple sacrifices and still not being able to get to your opponent's king because you're just wasting your time in this game if you're doing that. So, generally speaking, here's the tip. You can load up for an attack on one side. That's all well and good. But if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. You have to pull back. You have to go back to the drawing board. That's one tip. See there, he was trying to move the pawn in position so that he'd have like that advantage. And again, I ignored that because I ignored that knight move because I had to load up the center, which is more critical in the game of chess, is that if you have control of the center, you have more influence. I had that with these 3 pawns here. You notice that he pulled back a move 12, knight h5. And then, of course, I got the pawns rolling in the center. You notice how I moved the queen back a few times. With that move, knight takes pawn h4. That is another tip I can provide for you guys, is that when you notice that your opponent is moving his or her queen a lot in a game, when you notice that, um, that is a that is definitely a cue for you to start developing your pieces altogether. And I'm not just talking about your queen, I'm talking about your other pieces. When you notice that your opponent is moving his or her queen a lot, that is an indicator for you to go ahead and develop your pieces as a unit. Start developing your knights, develop your bishops, develop your rooks, get your pawns rolling in the center like you're seeing here in this game. Do whatever you have to do to develop. Because if your opponent is not going to develop, then that's a indicator for you that you have to start developing. That's a surefire clue right there for you to go, aha, I need to start developing. So yeah, that was it. Quick game, good game, definitely a learning experience for a game. So yeah, so be on the lookout for more chess related content on STVCastle. This is STVCastle Chess after all, and I do have more plans, yeah, for this series, STVCastle Chess. I'm not sure to what degree exactly. Maybe down the road, you guys might be seeing me in person playing a game of chess. That's actually, that was an ambulance going by the way, if you heard that. I have more plans going on for STVCastle Chess that could be in the works, like maybe for me playing in person in a game that, you actually get to see me, move, pieces against another chess player. So stuff like that. I'd like to do that down the road in the future if that's possible. So be on the lookout for stuff like that. I like to do that. So yeah, if you guys appreciate and like this content, please give this video a like. Please share this content with your friends and other chess players out there. Um, and also, one more thing before I go, because I need to announce this. STV Castle in general, the channel, um, STV Castle now has a Ko-fi account. So what Ko-fi is that you could, if if you guys wanted to, you guys could donate uh, $5 to the Ko-fi account. So yes, I do have a Ko-fi account. If you guys want to donate anything to my Ko-fi account, that'd be so well appreciated. Um, and honestly, guys, I appreciate everything that you guys do for me as subscribers. So yeah, be on the lookout for more STV Castle Chess. This is Stephen Vitt. Take care, guys.